challenging.
Right.
And you find that observers should drain it.
Yes, it could. Well, it could.
And if that's true, then that.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily train you to be the observer. It means that it pulls you apart.
Oh,
Okay, so you mix. If you mix, so this would be the opposite, going against the arrow. So challengers, observers need a healthy dose
yeah.
of challenging things. Challengers, if they're moving in that direction, they may dig in too much into something. They may observe too much and then confront too much.
So if you say you're a challenger and then you see that applies to you, is that a good clue if you can't decide?
Might be. Yeah, it's what happens is when you're working on your own Enneagram number is you kind of settle it down to a couple of them and then you sit with it for a while and then you see which one seems to fit. And as you hear more descriptions, then you say, I have to admit that's me. Okay, something will click for you and you say, yeah, that's right. That happens to me all the time. And there are some good books on this. Now, some of the books that I have are a little bit older. But they're classic works. One of them is by Palmer, called The Enneagram. There's a number of books by Don Riso, R-I-S-O, on the Enneagram. This one, Personality Types, I think is a good general book. And this one, I think, is a little bit simplistic, called The Enneagram, and it's by Beesing, Novosek, and O'Leary. It's a religious book. So it's these are written by some nuns and priests, okay, on using the Enneagram. But I find that there are some questions at the end of each, in this book, there are questions at the end of each personality type. There's 20 questions. And when you go through those 20 questions and you get 17 out of 20, let's say, you say, no, that's a pretty good indication that that's me. Okay, they'll say, do you feel this, do you feel that, you often feel that. So I find that very helpful that way. And I mentioned to you that there is a website, there are a number of different websites, but one of them is 9types.com, numeral 9types.com, and there are some different things on there that can help you. So today I wanted to go into a little bit more of the, let's see, I went the wrong way. Getting along with the personality type. So what things are helpful for each one of these personality types if you want to get along with that person? This also may be a clue to you. Say, yeah, if people do that for me, I feel good. And that might be an indication that that's your personality type. So for example, the ones, the reformers. And I tried to, for each one of these, give the best definition of the one that you could find, okay? We're not all doing this well, but ones are realistic, conscientious, and principled. They strive to live up to their high ideals. So that's a description of a one when that one is doing well. Okay? And we're not always doing well. So if you wanted to get along with someone like me, a number one personality, these are things that would be helpful. Take your share of the responsibility so I don't end up with all the work. Because ones are always complaining that we do all the work. And I mean, that's not true, but we do feel that way, okay? So if you take your share of the responsibility, then I feel like, okay, well, it's not all left to me, okay? Acknowledge my achievements. Ones like that feeling of somebody saying, well, you did this and you did that, because we were praised as children for being good little boys and good little girls. Okay, so that helps us, that feeling of, okay. See, just so you know a little bit of the motivations of some of these. The ones also deal with that issue of blame. They're afraid they're going to be blamed for something, so the way they dealt with it is by handling it in advance. Okay, taking care of it before someone can get mad at us. That's, all right, so acknowledging my achievements means that, whew, I did that, I took care of it. Okay. 3, I'm hard on myself. Ones are very hard, self-critical all the time. I'm hard on myself, so reassure me that I'm fine the way I am. That's helpful. That will help me to relax. You're fine, you're good, don't worry about it. You don't have to prove it, okay? Because I can be pretty self-critical. As I told you last week, if I do something and I get one little part wrong, that's the part I'm going to remember. Okay? That's what I'll remember. Okay? Tell me that you value my advice. Now, you don't have to say that if you really don't value my advice, okay? But it's helpful, if we like to help others, we like to straighten things out, we like to move things along, we like to fix things. So tell me that you value my advice if it really has been helpful. Okay, be fair and considerate, as I am. Okay, I'm not always fair and considerate, but we tend to think of ourselves that way. So making sure that everything is fair and everything, we thought about that. Make sure, that you use the last paper towel, you put another roll there. That's what that's important to us. Apologize if you have been unthoughtful. It will help me to forgive. So if you did something that was hurtful or whatever, and you said, I'm really sorry, I got mixed up, or I forgot, or something like that. Ones deal with that very, very well. What we find hard to deal with is if we're helping somebody and they don't even try. Then we just like, that's But if a person that we're working with and helping at least shows that they're trying, then we'll keep working with them. We'll keep saying, okay, all right, you'll get it next time, like that. We can be very patient when the person's trying. If we feel like they're not trying, or they are inconsiderate, or they just, they're not apologetic, that's it, we're done. Okay? So that's very helpful for once. And then gently encourage me to lighten up and to laugh at myself when I get uptight. But here are my worries first. Like, you start to say what's on your mind, and somebody, oh no, just smile, come on, let's laugh. We don't like that. But if somebody says, okay, it's fine, I heard what you said, but let's lighten up, let's do something fun, that's generally welcome, and that helps me to feel stronger, to feel better. Anybody else here a 1 that they want to raise? Okay. Does that seem to make sense to you, those things? Okay. Okay, good. All right, so that's the 1. Type 2, the helper. Okay, 2s are warm, concerned, nurturing, and sensitive to other people's needs. And they really are. They sense people's needs, they can tell what's going on, they're ready to jump in. That's the thing, they're always ready to jump in, especially if somebody feels hurt or upset or whatever. 2s will be ready to jump in and take care of that. They're often in helping professions. So, if you're dealing with a 2, tell me that you appreciate me and be specific. Not, oh, you're a great person. It's more like, I really appreciated when you said to me that you liked the way I did this. That helps the 2 to say, yeah, I made a difference. I guess I was needed there. I did something that was necessary. Because that's the concern with the 2 all the time. Share fun times with me. Because 2s often have the feeling that, they like me, but only for what I do. Because I come in, I set up, or because I always make sure I bring food, or I'm the one that helps out with the cleanup and all. But that's the only reason you really like me. I told you, 2s want to be needed, and they want to be needed in the way they want to be needed. So if you share fun times with that person, then it shows that you really do like them, and you like them for them. And that's very important for the 2. Because they're afraid that you only like them because of the role that they play. Because 2s often play roles. Now remember what I said about 2s. That so many women think that they are twos because we keep assigning this role to the women in our society, in fact, throughout the world. As if they have to do this. And women do these kinds of things all the time. But if it's not their basic personality type, if they're one of the other type, they feel drained a lot. And sure, there's a lot of women that are feeling drained all the time because we keep putting stuff on them. Okay, the twos. Take an interest in my problems, although I will probably try to focus on yours. So you go over to a two and say, I notice you're looking a little bit tired. And they like that feeling that they're being noticed, but they'll start switching it to, yeah, and I saw that you were, and then they'll go on with something about you. But the fact that you show an interest in them helps them, once again, to feel that they're being considered for the person that they are, not just for what they do. Let me know that I am important and special to you. Okay, that's when the two is moving in the direction that they need to move, which is toward the four. Fours have a sense of their own specialness. Okay, twos need that. So if you let them know that they're important and special and unique, and not just you're not just somebody that helps, that makes them feel stronger and better. Okay, I mean, we all like any of these things, for all of them, but specifically, this is like medicine for a two. And then lastly, be gentle if you decide to criticize me. Okay? Because the feelings get hurt, and then they start feeling like, well, you don't appreciate all the things that I've done, and they'll latch on to. Because often twos will have that one wing where they latch on to that one thing they did wrong that you mentioned to them, and then they'll think that that's all you see, and then you don't appreciate all the other stuff. That's it, I'm not going to do any more for those people ever again, that kind of thing. But if you decide to criticize, you've got to be gentle, and then it can be helpful. Any twos out there?
Isn't that what you usually do to your children?
Yeah, that's right. It often comes up for mothers too, that they handle these things because they're always helping their children, and that's a role that they often play.
Like they complain about.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, because twos often their feelings get hurt because they want to be needed, and they want their children to turn to them, and they get offended if they turn to someone else. Okay? So when they're not dealing with it well, they can be manipulative, and it's what you would say, oh, you're gonna go out? Okay, yeah, I'll just make dinner for myself again. I guess you're done with me making you those fancy dinners, like that kind of thing. And then people feel manipulated by that. Okay, so that's the two. 3. I told you the 3 type is one that isn't always, people don't recognize it in themselves. It's one of those types that is around in our society, but it's not always seen as acceptable. People would rather picture themselves as some other type. Almost every 3 that I have known closely has said, oh, I'm not a 3. Okay. They imagine that there's something else. But 3s are successful. They like to be successful. So the basic description of 3s, this is when they're working well. 3s are energetic, they're optimistic, they're self-assured, and goal-oriented. Let's get this done, we can do this, we're going to succeed, we're going to be at the top, we'll handle this. Okay, and that's when things are going well with the achievers, okay, being successful. So, a way to get along with achievers. Leave me alone when I'm doing my work. Don't keep interrupting me, don't keep stopping me, don't say, I think we should do it a different way. 3s often have a good sense of how this is going to succeed if they do it. So leave me alone, don't bother me. Give me honest but not unduly critical or judgmental feedback. So 3s will accept it if you say to them, that banner you did was great, I noticed that corner is a little bit low. They'll say, oh, good. They'll handle it, okay? That will be fine. But if it's very critical, look, you're always doing this wrong, and it's not, their 3s don't handle that very well. Okay. Help me to keep my environment harmonious and peaceful. Because 3s they can either be all over the place with, oh, we gotta get this done, we're gonna succeed, and it's a little bit too much. But if you keep it harmonious and peaceful for them, it helps to settle them down, and they become even more creative and more focused on getting it done and being more successful. Next, don't burden me with negative emotions. Okay, 3s don't handle well you're telling them your sob story at that moment, or it's not that it bothers them because it's painful. It's they find it interrupts them, and they say, "All right, can't deal with that right now. We got a contest to win, or we got this to do. We have a production going on here. Okay, so we can't deal with that now." So they feel burdened by negative emotions, but for that reason. Tell me you like being around me. See, 3s get better when you deepen the relationship. They tend to be on the surface a lot and leave people behind when they're off to the next project or the next thing that they're working on. But they do feel better when people help them to deepen the relationship and say, look, I like being around you. It's fun working with you, and it's good. That helps them to achieve what they want to achieve, but it also helps to deepen them, and it rounds them out a little bit more. So that goes with the next one. Help me to deepen my relationships. Remind me of it's important to do things for each other, with each other, not just move on to the next task. And then 3s like it very much when, tell me when you're proud of me or my accomplishments. Okay? You got that blue ribbon. That was great, fantastic. You moved us all up into the next ranking, whatever it is. You go, wow, they shine from that. That's like food for them, is the feeling that they have accomplished something and other people are seeing it. Any 3s out there? I told you that room would be empty if we had rows for each one. Okay. Type 4, the individualist. Okay, also can be very artistic. Not always artists, but often have that flair, a sense of symbolism, of writing, of painting, sometimes in many areas. Okay, creativity. So 4s have sensitive feelings and are warm and perceptive. Now this is when they're working well. So sensitive feelings in the sense that they can be in a group and they can sense that one person that's the other side of the room that's hurting. They can feel it. They're very emotionally porous. That's one of their gifts, is that they feel things because they're dealing with their own feelings a lot. And they can really be very warm in that. I know they've said that we have to get this done, but how are you doing? Okay? 2s and 4s often close to each other because of that arrow, okay? So, and perceptive. They're perceptive, feng shui is very important to them. Perceptive of their environments. I remember a woman that was a 4 that came in to see me for counseling. She walked into my room, she said, this is a very nervous room. Interesting, the room was nervous. But I think she could feel the energy from previous people that had been there with anxiety. This is a very nervous room. Okay. So, to get along with 4 as well. Give me plenty of compliments. They mean a lot to me. Make sure you say things, good things, helpful things, okay? Because internally they're dealing with the critic at times. And those compliments really help them to feel special and unique. That's very important for them. They don't want to just be a cookie cutter. They want to be, I'm an individual, I'm different. I came into this world and I bring something that no one else brings. And that's true for everyone, but for 4s, they feel it all the time. Be a supportive friend or partner. Help me to learn to love and value myself. Because deep inside, a lot of 4s feel they're not good enough, they're not great enough, the stuff that I've done doesn't mean anything. It's like the writer that on his deathbed makes his friends promise, "You're gonna burn all my writings after I die." Okay, they feel their stuff isn't good enough. But if you're supportive, okay, they learn to love and value themselves. Okay. Respect me for my special gifts of intuition, creativity, and vision. So if you're with somebody that's a 4 and they're intuiting something, they're saying, "I think I feel this," listen to it. They, on another level of consciousness, they are picking something up. And they don't like that just being dismissed as, "No, you're just being silly." It's worth listening to. They have special gifts in that area. Special gifts of creativity, where they say, it's okay, but I think we need to do a little something more. They have gifts with that. And vision. They could walk into a blank space and suddenly envision it as being this and this and this and this and this. And you're saying, wait, I don't know. Where are you getting that from? It's in there somewhere. So it's worth respecting that. Okay, this one's also very important. Though I don't always want to be cheered up when feeling melancholy, I sometimes like to have someone lighten me up a little. So that melancholy mood, which for other people might feel depressing or, oh wow, that's really a downer. For the 4, it's a kind of a nostalgic reviewing of emotions, of feelings that it's a form of consciousness for them that they in some way like to be in, because it helps them to see things and to foster things and to maybe move to the point of creating something. And so you can't just always go to a 4 and say, "Come on, smile!" That takes the away. It's okay for them at times to feel a little down, a little bit, a little blue. And then maybe they'll sing the blues. And that's where the creativity comes out. But it's helpful if you lighten them up a little bit. It helps them to move toward the 1, which is ones of doers. We like to get things done. So when a 4 moves toward the 1, they get something done and they actually create something that's been floating around in their head or in their heart. And then they feel better when they get that out. And then lastly, don't tell me I'm too sensitive or that I'm overreacting. That is one of those things I hate. Okay. You're just too sensitive. And the answer is, well, that's what insensitive people always say. Okay. Don't tell me I'm too sensitive or that I'm overreacting. If I'm reacting, it's because I'm feeling something that you may not see, that you might be blind to. But just saying that, even if you think they are overreacting, which is possible, saying it really is hurtful to them. It makes them feel like, oh, you're just a silly woman, or you're just a crazy artist, or it feels dismissive to them because they feel things very strong. Any 4s out there? I see a few heads nodding. Okay. Any questions about the 4? Okay. Fives, observers. So when they're at their best, fives have a need for knowledge, a hunger for knowledge, and are introverted often. They do their best thinking internally. Curious, say, oh, I want to know why that works that way. Analytical, and insightful. So when they're working well, fives tend to look at something very, very carefully, break it down into parts, and they're engineering it in their mind and their heart already. That's what they're doing with it. Okay, and that there's a lot of giftedness involved with that. Okay, so how to get along with a five? First, be independent, not clingy. Okay, fives don't like people that cling to them. Say, all right, come on, you got to show me this. You got to do this. Let's go do that. Fives are like, I don't want that. I don't need that. Okay. With a five, speak in a straightforward and brief manner. So if you can say to them point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, fives they'll put that in there. But if you're like rambling and going on, and fives are like, I'm already drained by that. Okay, I can't follow that anymore. I need time alone to process my feelings and thoughts. Fives need that space. They need to be able to withdraw. Okay, they're usually not going to respond when I, as a presenter, say, are there any questions? You have to give the five a little bit more time than that for them to process it, think it, focus it, and then maybe they might have something, or they'll say something after the talk is over. Okay, they'll come up. So if you write on, if you're with a five and you write on and say, I want your answer right now, that really is, threatening or angering for them. Okay. Remember that if I seem aloof, distant, or arrogant, it may be that I'm feeling uncomfortable. So they might give us a snappy or snotty answer to something, but to get you away. If you come right up to a five like this, they'll want to back and say, look, you're out of focus, okay? They might feel aloof. Some people think that they're acting like a snob, but it's really more of a self-protection. But they need that space in order to process something. Make me feel welcome, but not too intensely, or I might doubt your sincerity. So if it's so good to have you, and great, I'm going to wrap my arm around you, and everything, the five will be like, all right, what do you want? Okay, they're going to doubt your sincerity. So they do like to feel welcomed, and hey, it's great to have you here, but too much intensity is rough for them. If I become irritated when I have to repeat things, it may be because it was such an effort to get my thoughts out in the first place. So a five will say something very succinctly, and someone will say, oh, could you repeat the second part? And it's like, wait. It's hard enough for me to say that whole thing, to get that out there, so now you're asking me to repeat it. And they may act irritated. Okay? Don't come on like a bulldozer. That's that feeling that they have that people are barreling into them. Okay? Come in gently, quietly, analytically. That's helpful to them. And then, lastly on this one, help me to avoid my pet peeves, which are big parties, other people's loud music, overdone emotions, and intrusions on my privacy. Okay, so, but those things, fives don't deal with well. I may be wrong, but fives generally don't like surprise parties. Okay, they walk into a room and there's 300 people going, surprise! And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I remember it happened to a guy that we were in college with, and people had a cake in his room and they said, surprise, and everything, but his response was, get out of my room. He was like, overwhelmed, okay? Any fives around? Okay. Anybody?
They might have my dad's name on it.
Oh, okay, so
That.
if we had the Enneagram dictionary, your dad's picture would be next to it, next to the five. Okay. So people dealing with fives, yeah. Okay. Again, this is one of those personality types that often gets misinterpreted. But fives make natural monks. They like to observe, they like to sit, be quiet, they can be still for long periods of time because they're processing. Okay? All right. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll continue this, okay? 5 minutes? Actually, 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Help yourself to some of the refreshments, water outside.
No.
Can we ask you, what does the other mean? Does that mean like this?
No, so if you go with the arrow, that means that's the bad direction. If you go against the arrow, this one here, that's a good direction. So when you're going against the arrow, that personality type helps you to feel strong. If you take on some of their characteristics, it helps you to feel strong. And if you go with the arrow, if you take on those characteristics, it makes you feel good. Okay?
To me, it's just natural.
That's the way it is. There were times I thought I would, but
but I'm much more. Relate to that because they like to that part I relate to. Okay, so you might have a wing, it could be a 4 with a 5. So you could be 4 with a 5.
She left her.
Or you could be 5 with a 4. Which case, you know, you might be more analytical, but,
Oh,
so
Lord, yeah.
I'm a one
Oh, I know.
strong children, that's why I'm helping. But there are times when I'm more like, no,
Oh, okay.
when I'm overseas, I can usually come. Yeah. No, that used to be before this.
Oh, my son, he's in
And so you could leave behind that way of thinking. It's interesting. Yeah. Called the geographical cure.
Yes, yes. So we should.
They come up and I do.
Well, we ones always have a very strong sense of time and punctuality. Okay, let's take a look at the 6. Are you ready? Okay, 6s. I told you this is another one that isn't always recognized because it's found throughout our society. And it's found specifically among Christian churches.
Yes.
Okay, the following of the order of things. Okay, so but 6s, loyalism, a loyalist. So when they're dealing well with things, 6s are responsible, trustworthy. They value loyalty to family, friends, groups, and causes. And that is a wonderful thing, unless the cause that they're most involved with is already by itself strange. Okay? So if a 6 is involved in something that's like a cult or something, oh boy, they're in tight. Okay? But generally, the 6s are that way. They follow the chain of command. And you know where you stand, and they want you to know where to stand. So when you're dealing with a 6, well, I told you what their issue is they deal with fear. And the way they deal with fear is by being involved with a group. They find that being part of a group is helpful for dealing with their fears in the world. The group will protect them. The organization will protect them. So when you're dealing with a 6, be direct and clear. Okay? They don't want to hear fuzzy stuff like, well, I think it's okay if we. No, wait, are we allowed to do that? Will there be any danger if we are to do that? Okay, that's what I mean by being direct and clear with the 6. They want to know that. They want to know that if we do this, they're not going to wind up losing their home and being out on the street and all of it. Spell it out for them. Okay? But 6s, listen to me carefully. And that word careful is very important to the 6. They'll often use that word. They'll say, all right, let's just be careful. Okay? Let's be careful. I don't want to go that far. And they want you to listen to them carefully. Because they might be telling you, no, we can't do that, it doesn't say that, you know, in the fine print, it says this. So they want you to listen to them. Don't judge me for my anxiety about the rules in the chain of command. So you say to the 6, oh God, you're so concerned about that. I mean, what's the big deal? And they feel very judged. For them, that is important. That's why we have the rules. That's why we have the military code of justice. That's why we have whatever it is so that we can know where we stand. Work things through with me. So with a 6, if you say to them, okay, first we're going to do this, next we're going to do that, and then after that we will do this, and if this happens, then we'll be able to do that. Then they appreciate that. That's very helpful for them so that they know the steps that they're going to be following. Reassure me that everything is okay between us. So 6s sometimes are fearful that it's not really good. You're not telling me everything. It's just cutting in and out. Okay. So reassure me that everything is okay. That we're doing fine. Okay. Laugh and make jokes with me. So 6s, they often have that 7 wing. They're fine with, joking around and, just being, having that office banter and those kind of things. They like that. They feel like that's a sign of acceptance. Gently push me toward new experiences. Okay, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to do this a little bit different. I know that in the past you did this and you were used to doing it that way, but we're going to move toward this now. And if you explain it more carefully and nudge them toward it, then they'll be much more willing to go along with it. Okay? And then try not to overreact to my overreacting. So 6s will sometimes dig in their heels and say, can't do that, I don't know, you shouldn't do that, it doesn't say that, it's not what it says in subsection 5, and then you start overreacting. So, here we go again, just listen to it and say, okay, all right, I know you feel that way, but here's why that rule doesn't apply, why this is an exception. If you explain it more carefully to them, then they will be more willing, but if you start overreacting to them and they feel judged by that, then often they're digging their heels. I say, no, that's it. It says that, and that's what I'm doing until somebody in authority tells me otherwise. Okay, so that's kind of important with them. Move them along gradually. Yes?
Going back to the first and the second one, they want somebody to be direct to them, but what if that person, the one of us, is not clear in their direction?
Well, and they may not be clear, they may be befuddled, but they appreciate it when you are clear with them, when you spell it out for them, and they see everything going along that helps them to be able to move from the known to the unknown.
But can I relate to them not being clear and have it fed back a lot clearer? Can I relate?
So when they see that someone is not being clear,
So if I say something to you that you're translating in your head, but what you're saying is such and such, and you feed it back to me much clearer, will the loyalist accept what you're saying?
yeah, normally, if they're, within every personality type, there are people that will be willing to listen and move forward, and there are others that are caught in their disintegration and can't. But I think that you have a better chance with a 6 if you're able to say to them, okay, if I hear what you're saying, it's this, 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 and this, and this, and then they'll say, yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, does that help? Yeah. Okay. 7s, the enthusiasts, life of the party. Okay, sevens are energetic. This is, again, all of these descriptions are when they're doing well. Okay, sevens are energetic, lively, and optimistic. They want to contribute to the world. They want to make the world a better place by having more fun. Okay, so that's their ideas. They'll make the world better if we could all just laugh a little bit and see them. You know, seven, you'll often hear a seven say something like, "Oh, come on, you gotta see the humor in this, right?" And that's their way of approaching it. So, and the difficulty with sevens is that they tend to go overboard and overdo it. That's the general downfall, is that they can overdo it. So, give me companionship, affection, and freedom. Well, that sounds like something we all want, right? But sevens especially, they like that companionship part. Yeah, I know we're attending a lecture, but sit with me. Let's make little comments to make it light while we're listening. That's what sevens would do. Okay, and that would be a sign of affection for them. Okay, so they're not that big on following the rules as much. Okay, engage with me in stimulating conversation and laughter. Tell me a story. Tell me what happened. Oh, let me tell you what happened. Oh, that reminds me of something that my uncle did, and then they can go on and spin a long thing with that. And that's very stimulating for them. And they love laughing. They really do. That means a lot to them. Okay? And they'll often say to you, "Oh, come on, you have to laugh." Okay, appreciate my grand visions and listen to my story. So they can make a big global sense of it. You know, what a crazy world we live in. And they'll go on with that. And they'll tell some stories about that. And they like if you listen to that. That makes them feel accepted. Don't try to change my style. Accept me the way I am. So if you say to us, "Look, if you're fooling around, you're this, you know, you're going to change their style, they don't feel accepted." They say, "Look, everybody's different. This is the way all right." So I laugh nervously. They'll say that's what happens with them. I'll give you an example of the first pastor that I had as senior pastor was from Ireland, and he was a seven. This seven is often associated with the Irish anyway. But he could not take anything too heavy. And at one point, we were doing something, there was a group of us, and some nuns there and all, and we were supposed to do a period of silent meditation, and it was just got to be too serious for him. And at a certain point, he acted like he was snoring. And of course, he cracked up, and then he felt better. But he just had to do that. He just couldn't take that. It was getting too serious. I may try to lighten a heavy conversation, so see it as my way of contributing. So if a group of people are huddled together and they're talking about someone that they know that's sick and going through difficulties, and it goes on for a while, the seven will often crack a little joke. They'll say something funny about that person. "I'll remember when she did this or that." And that's not saying, "Oh, how irreverent you are that you should do that at this moment." The seven feels that's their contribution, that they're reminding us that we still have to be light enough. And that's so if you judge them for it, then they feel unaccepted by you. Okay? And sometimes they are inappropriate, as anybody could be inappropriate. But it's generally not out of meanness that they're doing that. Okay? It's because they feel like that helps. Be responsible for yourself. I dislike clingy or needy people. So if it's all about your needs and what you want and this and that, sevens, they find that a little painful. and they want to move away from it. It's not enough fun for them. And this last one, I guess, could apply to all of us, but often to sevens, don't tell me what to do. If you say, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and they'll say, oh, yeah? Let me tell you something. Okay? They don't deal well with that. So the things to remember about the 7 is that they like more. So their motto would be, if 1 scoop is good, 2 scoops are better. Okay? If something's on sale, well, buy 3 of them. More is always more acceptable to them. They just like to be over the top with it. Okay? Any 7s here? Because there's no 7 left. Okay, 7s. 8s. This is a personality type that a lot of people have difficulty dealing with. Okay? Because 8s like to make themselves difficult to deal with. Okay? They are challengers. They're going to challenge you. They want to step in and say, all right, this is it. I'm going to be the one that says this. They want to be upfront. So the 8s, when they're working well, are direct, right to the point. Self-reliant. I can handle this on my own. Self-confident. I've always been able to do that. And protective. They can protect others and say, look, I'm not going to let you bully this person. I got them. I got your back. Okay, that would be important for 8s when things are working well. So they want to be in your face. And as I said to you last week, if they will come up to you and they'll tell you, you know what? Maybe no one else will tell you this, but, and they'll come right at you. And if you come right back at them and say, yeah, well, what about this, and you're like this, you would think that they would be angry, but often 8s will respect you for that. Okay, they feel like you took them seriously. So they'll say, okay, all right, well, I don't agree with you, but at least you stood up for yourself. That's important to them. All right, so with 8s, stand up for yourself confidently, and I will respect you more. Okay? It kind of reminds me, if those of you who have been to Europe or lived in Europe, I lived in Italy for a number of years, and we have to bargain at the flea market. If you paid the first price that they told you, they wouldn't respect you. They liked it when you came back at them and said, no, I'm not buying that. I wouldn't give you $1 for that. And then they'd go, yeah, all right, $3. And when you were done, even though you got them down, they would say, that was good. That was good. Well, the 8s are like that. You stand up for yourself. Okay? Don't gossip about me or betray my trust. For 8s, they feel like you're being two-faced. I would much rather that you come right up and say it to my face. Because if I hear that you're talking about it, talking about me elsewise, I have no respect. Say it to my face. But also see and acknowledge my tender, vulnerable side. Because 8s can be teddy bears. They're bears, but they can be teddy bears too. Right? They have a side, a mushy side. Especially a side that cares about others and cares about those who are the underdog. So if you can see it and acknowledge it and say, yeah, that's good that you fight for that, but I know that inside you also, you feel for that. Then they feel like they're known. Give me space to be alone. Okay, sometimes they want to do it on their own. I'll handle this. Just leave it up to me. No, don't come with me. I want to do it. Acknowledge the contributions I make, but don't flatter me. Oh, you're so great. You're so wonderful. They feel like that you're trying to manipulate them. Okay, but if you say, no, that was really helpful. I'm glad that someone said that. I'm glad you were the one that stood up, and they like that. But if you flatter them too much, they take that as phoniness. They don't like anything phony. Give me a good cause to fight for. Boy, they'll be like a dog with a bone, right? You give them a good cause that has to say, you're just the right person. If you went there and you stood up to them on this, you know, we could really use your help. They'll say, oh, I'll handle it all right, believe me. So that's when 8s are at their best, is when they're able to see the needs of others and fight for those needs. Otherwise, they'll find something to fight. And then they'll just create dissension. You say it's a great day, and they'll say, oh, it's terrible outside. They'll take the opposite if they don't have something good to fight for. Okay. I often speak in an assertive way. Don't automatically assume it's a personal attack. So right there and say, wait, whoa, why are you attacking me? No, they're not attacking you. That's just the way they talk. That's the way they want to be. And when I scream, curse, and stomp around, try to remember that's just the way I am. Okay, see, we're gonna do this, we're gonna, they feel that's just how they are. Now, we could all say that about us, like, well, it's just the way that I am, but it is often the way they are in the world. And so, you know, they have a full head of steam coming up all the time. Any 8s out there?
Isn't that what the love stuff is?
I'm not gonna say, I don't like to give anyone else's Enneagram, but I would doubt it. I would doubt it. I think he likes to project that. Okay. Okay. And the 9 type, which we're coming around again, the peacemaker. Okay. They like to keep things calm. Put oil on the waters. Just make it smooth, easy. So when they're working well, 9s are receptive, good-natured, supportive. They're always, with you. And, yeah, sure, fine. They seek union with others in the world around them when things are working well. If they fit in, they're chameleons. They put them in the middle of a group, and they'll find something in common with that group. Okay, they will. They just are known as that great person. It's so easy to get along with. So fine, just. But as I told you, often it's they want to feel accepted, and they don't want to be blamed. And they will give the impression that they're agreeing with you. And which is a helpful thing, especially if you're arbitrating something, because they naturally can settle things and be good arbitrators because they see everyone's point of view. But they may not actually agree with you. They just don't want you to know that. So they'll keep their options open for as long as possible. And just keep going along until finally you're ready to do something, and then they might say, well, I don't think I'm ready to do that. Really? Okay. So, if you want me to do something, how you ask is important. I especially don't like expectations or pressure. So they can become very stubborn. You say, you've got to do this, you've got to have it in by that, and make sure you, then they start rearing on, well, I don't know why I should have to do that. And then they start taking on that 8 wing. Okay, they'll stand up that way. I like to listen and to be of service, but don't take advantage of this. So, you say to an 8, a 9, could you help us out? Oh, sure, yeah, I got nothing to do. And then the next day, could you help us out? Yeah, and after a while, they start to feel taken advantage of. Okay? But they are often ready to just, yeah, sure, I got nothing else to do, even though my wife told me I need to do this, and this. That'll work. Okay. Listen until I finish speaking, even though I meander a bit. So 9s will often go around, and they're they're testing the waters and seeing what floats here. Okay, what's going on? So but they want you to listen. Don't give me time to finish things and make decisions. It's okay to nudge me gently and non-judgmentally. And that can be very, very frustrating because they don't like making decisions. They put off making decisions, they collect them in their head, and you're saying, look, we have to decide now. Okay, we're standing outside the theater. Which one of these movies are we going to go to? And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm still looking, still thinking, or waiting for you to make the decision so that, and if they hate the movie, you get the blame. Okay? But they can be nudged. And I told you, there are nines that will put off decisions for years. Years they'll put it off. And they're still collecting it in their head, still thinking, no, I'm still thinking about that, I'm not sure. Ask me questions to help me get clear. So sometimes with a 9, you can say, well, is it like this, or is what you're saying something like that? And that helps them to move it along a little bit. Tell me when you like how I look. I'm not averse to flattery. 9s are genuinely surprised when anyone notices them. They like to blend in, and they often feel like they're part of the furniture. Okay, they're just part of the wallpaper. But if you say to a 9, hey, wow, that looks good, or you've been working out, or anything, wow, the hairstyle is very good. They're generally surprised, and they like that. They like that little bit of attention. Hug me, show physical affection. It opens me up to my feelings, because 9s often will not tell you what they're exactly feeling. They're trying to be nice and smile and all of that. But if you show them a little bit extra affection and make it feel safe for them to express what's going on with them, they'll share more, and it makes them feel better, like their real self is welcome and it's safe. I like a good discussion, but not a confrontation. 9s are very different than 8s, which are right next to them, who like confrontations. 9s do not like confrontations. So they don't mind discussing something, and they can discuss it for a long time. But if you're confronting them, they might dig in their heels and deny it completely. Okay, so I know a person who was a 9 who also had issues with diabetes. Okay, and his wife had made all these cookies that she had put in the freezer that she was going to be using for something, and she went in there and she found almost all the cookies gone. And so she confronted him on it. Have you been eating the cookies? And his answer, no, I wouldn't eat those cookies. Are you telling me that someone broke into our house and ate almost every cookie but left one in each bag? Yes, that is what I'm telling you. Okay? I mean, he dug in his heels. He was not going to accept that confrontation. Okay? So, yeah. So maybe a different approach would work better, saying, yeah, I see you like the cookies. Okay, you want to make more, or, something. But he denied it. Okay. Let me know you like what I've done or said. Okay, again, it's that acknowledgement. It's like, that was really good. You made everybody calm again. You settled that. I thought it was going to erupt into a fight, and you went in, heard everybody, and it settled it. They like that if you notice that. And laugh with me and share in my enjoyment of life. Because 9s like to take it easy. They do. Why stand if you can sit, and why sit if you can lay down? That's kind of their motto, okay? They enjoy a good hammock. They like to take it easy and enjoy life that way. Any 9s out there? Anybody dealing with 9s? Okay. So, those are, again, part of what I was doing with this presentation was to help you to make allowances for others. That's the idea of this, is not so that you can write somebody off, say, oh, I've got you all figured out, I've got you pegged, and I know everything about you. It's not meant to be that, or for judging others. It's meant to, in your mind, say, okay, maybe they have these characteristics, and this is what's going on, and I have to make allowances for it. When they're doing this, they're not doing it to you. They're just doing it. And knowing about what helps them to feel better and feel stronger is a helpful thing, because you can move them toward being their better self. And there are ways that if you don't pay attention to that, you can really exacerbate it and make it much worse. And then and now we're dealing with some disintegration that's going on. Anybody have a question or an incident that comes to mind when we're talking about these things? Yes.
I think all the supporters of the Democratic Party who speak right and listen to the radio NPR, they are none.
So you think that they tend to be nines. And again, they like to project that. So it's possible. When the idea is that I want to project fairness and everybody's opinion is valid and everything, there's room for everything, that's a very nine quality to have. But nines have their own issues that they deal with, and that inability to decide, and inability to bring it to a conclusion, say, no, this is what we are going to do. That's what people who live with nines find really exacerbating after a while. It's just, I can't, exasperating is what I meant to say. You got to make up your mind here. We have to do something. Okay? And nines also, I should say, have, they can be inappropriate when they finally make a decision. They might, when they finally come to a decision to do something, it might be at exactly the wrong time. So I mentioned to you, someone decided to clean the refrigerator when, I'm pretty sure my dad was a 9, okay? And he would put off, he'd get up on a Saturday when he was a delivery man all week long, and he would get up on Saturday and get up a little bit late, because he was usually up at 4:30. And then all day long, he'd be thinking about a project that he's got to get done, something to do, and then, my mom is about to make dinner on Saturday, and somewhere around 4:30 in the afternoon, he decides to take apart the kitchen sink. And his pipes and things and all over it. And my mom was just like, we're going to eat. And then, and in those days, I remember most stores were closed on Sundays. And inevitably, there would be some part that he would have to buy that if we didn't get it by that evening, it would have to wait till Monday, and then the sink would be apart. And I just remember this happening, but he could never get himself going to do it. Or my dad would put off, like the garage roof, he'd put off getting it fixed for years, until finally, he found someone that was going to do it. And when they looked at everything, all the beams, everything were rotted because it had been leaking, and so that's the kind of thing that my dad would do. He would just keep putting things off. And I should say this also: all the personality types can procrastinate, but for different reasons. Okay, so a 1, which is often a perfectionist, will put off doing something because they don't think they're going to get it perfect. Okay, so I better not start it until I feel like I'm going to get it perfect. Okay, a 2 might put off something because they're afraid they're going to hurt somebody's feelings if they do it. And feelings are really, really important for them. Okay, a 3. An achiever might put off doing something because they feel like it's not going to be the success that I've been looking for. It's not going to fit into my resume. So I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay. The 4 might put it off because it's not special enough. Yeah, I know we have to do it, but it just doesn't seem special. It doesn't seem unique. It just seems like run of the mill. Okay. 5 might. 5s will often say, well, I'm learning more about that. I'm collecting more information. I'm looking up some things that are really kind of necessary for me to process this. A 6 might put off something because they're saying, well, I'm not sure whether it's, the rules allow it and whether, or this is gonna, it might put us in danger and I'm gonna be careful with that. Okay? Sevens might put something off because it's not enough fun. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and I gotta figure out a way to make this happier and, an 8 might put it up because they think that it's, 8s don't put things off too often. I mean, they're pretty impulsive, but they might put something off because they feel like it's either not the cause that they want to fight for, or because they think you're phony and it's not gonna get them anywhere anyway. And 9s put things off because they just put things off. And because they don't want to be blamed. Mostly it's because they don't want to be blamed. If someone says, look, I'd rather that you make the decision, and then it's not on me. Yes.
Well, you mentioned that, doing your room, I think, last time you mentioned the name of the stove was not working, it was like, grill.
For 2 years.
For years. How do the wives stand? I could not stand something like that. How do you live with a person like that?
Well, now you know why they were marital counseling. Okay? My mother was a 1, I'm pretty sure, and she would say things to us like, I'll be up for murder, but it'll be worth it. Okay? She wouldn't put up with it for very long, but it is hard to put up with, I don't want to go through a divorce, but I mean, come on, you're not making a decision, and everyone on the outside thinks that person is so great. Well, why don't you like him? I mean, he's such a great guy. You don't live with him, is what they would say. You don't live with him. You don't realize, how hard it is to always be the prime mover to get us going. That was my mom's complaint, is that by the time they would get somewhere, my father was like, I don't want to go out and think, maybe you shouldn't go. And then when they finally get there, she'd be aggravated and people would think she's a nasty person. And my father would be the life of the party. Oh, everything is good. They said, he's such a nice guy, and she's always so nasty. Anyone else? Yes.
Different colors, and we see part of it is red, part of it is green.
Yeah, I don't think that these colors on this chart, I took this chart from somewhere, I don't think they mean anything in particular. So I haven't analyzed that, but I don't know what they mean. Yes.
What if you have a relationship that you have to maintain, but, it's hard even for me to decide between 3 which one I'm in. So I could easily guess wrong about the other person.
Yeah.
So what do you run, so say you, in your mind, you sort of label somebody, what do you do in your mind to figure out if you're right or not? Besides going
Yeah.
through this list with-
Well, I mean, you can only do that with people that you're getting to know a little bit and you're letting them be themselves. And even if a person is not a 2, if they're acting like a 2 because of circumstances, you can still do the things that are helpful for 2s, okay? So they have some of that energy. They have a side to them that's like that. They have a part of their life in which they're like that, and that may be the part that you're involved with. So you can still use these ideas with that. But if deep down you get to know them even better, you know their deeper motivations, and sometimes then you have a chance to really help them and help your relationship with them. But most of all, it's to make allowances for others, to realize that a lot of what we think of in the world is people doing things to us isn't always that. It's just them doing things that come from them, and we have to deal with it and make a certain amount of allowances for it, or help nudge people towards something that's more helpful. Well, I have more material on this that I can do at another time, but you've got a pretty good overview of the Enneagram, and I hope it's helpful to you, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.